Wow. What a man. Okay. All right. So you know what? Thank you so much, Keith. So this is Keith Yonick, and Keith is he's in our family, but he's with the other side of the family with Caldwell Banker, right? And I think what is so beautiful, Keith, and I know you would agree with this. We are all part of we're all part of the same family, regardless of what side of the family we're on. We're all part of it, and we're all part of this community. And I think that's what makes this special. I think it's what makes real estate special. This shouldn't be adversarial at all, okay? Because we should be one happy family. We should conduct ourselves accordingly, right, and appropriately. And that reminds me of when you and I did a transaction together. I mean, you were going through some interesting things, and yet we worked together, and it was a beautiful and smooth transaction.
Oh yeah.
And,
Awesome.
right. And I appreciated your professionalism, and I know I told you that, and it's all the more reason why I wanted you on this call, because I wanted this audience to hear from you, someone who, again, who isn't necessarily here in Plano and far north Dallas, even though you work these areas. I think the majority of your business comes a little bit further south. And I know you and I share an old school mentality together. So I won't steal any thunder at all. We're just excited to hear from you. And thanks so much for honoring me and participating today. And again, I know that, guys, I'm just going to preface this by saying that Keith is not feeling 100%. And so, Keith, that being said, if you need to break off,
no, I'm good.
That's okay. So we appreciate you. So the floor is yours, my brother.
Oh, thank you. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for attending, and I received a lot of joy when Christina called me, because I don't do a lot of public speaking and I don't do a lot of Zoom calls. I'm not technical. I wish I was. I'm 52 years old, and when I was in high school, I avoided all the computer classes, but I could do CAD because I did an interior design degree, and I could do CAD, but I fall apart if I have to do anything technical. And I do want to say I did a deal with Ben, and it's just the one thing that I love about real estate is such a people business, but I have realtors tell me, oh, I have my list. And I'm like, list? And like, yeah, the list of the agents I never want to work again with. And people do have I have one on my list. So anyway, and yeah, we're not supposed to disparage it. We all joke around and stuff, but Ben is on my happy list. I mean, Ben was just awesome. And I mean, he was awesome to work with. I had clients that were moving from Oakland to Plano. They were adopting a baby, and just great people. But they wanted a pool. And I said, you're getting a baby in a pool? And so at the last minute, Ben doesn't know this, but they almost didn't get their adoption because of the pool. And so we were like, well, can we put a gate in? Can we do this? And so everything's fine. They're going through that process of adopting. And Ben was just awesome. The seller was nice. The big thing on Ben's client, I don't think the seller thought her house was going to sell so fast because she had such a great agent, and she panicked. She was, what do I do? I have furniture, I have this, but it all worked out. It was awesome. So I'll tell you real quick to not bore you. I'm sorry it's the Keith show today, but and I do have 4 foster dogs in my house, so I apologize. So anyway, I have a pretty simple resume. I grew up in the Pleasant Grove area of Dallas, and Norma Langston was our real estate agent. She's awesome. Sold us our house when we were little. We moved I was born in Longview, Texas, but we moved from Longview to New York when I was 3 weeks old, and I lived in New York till I was 13, and then we moved to Dallas, Texas. And Norma Langston actually inspired me to be a realtor, because when I was 13, coming from New York, I got in her big German car and said, wow, and I'm like 13. So I'm like, wow, you must really like real estate. You must be doing really well. And she said to me, either work real hard or marry well, honey. And I said, okay. So anyway, so I really enjoyed, working with Norma and our family, and she, I learned a lot from her because she knew that the heart of a home are the parents and the kids. And like, we were just so happy. I have a younger sister, and oh, Miss Norma's coming, Miss Norma's coming. So, so I kind of adopted a lot of old school real estate to my techniques that I do. So I went to Grady Spruce High School. And I graduated in 1989, and I was the valedictorian. And the only reason I was the valedictorian is the girl that should have been the valedictorian, she ended up getting mono. And it was based on attendance, because attendance was really bad at Grady Spruce. And I had perfect attendance because my mom was a teacher down the street, and she dragged me to school every day. And so I basically ended up getting that accolade from just going to school and showing up, and the other people's attendance was terrible. But anyway, when I graduated high school, I went to New York for 4 years to Parsons School of Design, and I became an interior designer. I was an interior designer for Mabel Carruth, the Carruth family in Dallas, Texas. I just loved her. She's a wonderful woman. I worked for her for 11 years. And I designed her houses and her properties. She owned a lot of properties. She owned the Fairmont Hotel. She owned a lot of things. So I really enjoyed my job, and I really enjoyed working for Mabel. She was a wonderful person. Mabel passed away. Her son kept me on a payroll for a year and had me stage and fix the house before they sold it. And it took a year because she had so many collections and all this stuff. So then I'm like, okay, I'm out of a job. What am I going to do? And I decided to do real estate. And when I first started real estate, I started doing relocation, and I don't do relocation anymore. It's just not for me, because when I get my check, I'm like, it's like 0.75% after you pay everybody. And it's just, it's just, maybe I'll change that later, but I just don't want to do relo anymore. So what I started doing is, a lot of agents want to do specialties, but my license says Texas. I've listed houses in Greenville, Longview, DeSoto, Plano, but my main focus area is Oaklawn because of my accent. And I'm just kidding, but I do a lot of business in Oaklawn. COVID has hurt our business in Oaklawn, the condo business. During COVID, a lot of the condos were hard to show because you're in a building and you're in high density, and people would put notes on their door that they had COVID, and next door you're showing, and you're like, I don't know if I want to do this. So it really changed my business. So a little bit, how I do business is a little bit different than most. I started real estate. I received my real estate license in 1989 at 19 years old. And I ended up getting my license to be an assistant to agent that Norma knew. And I did that for about a year, and then I went off to college, and then came back, worked for Mabel Carruth, and then ended up doing working for Coldwell Banker. I started doing relo, and then just got out of it and started doing my sphere of influence. So I've noticed in the business, especially with younger agents are awesome, but they don't keep in touch. I'm not making a blanket statement, but I find that they don't keep in touch with their clients. And I'm sorry about the annoying dogs. We're getting a roof put on, and they don't like the people climb the roof. My little speech is going to be how to make your clients the biggest fan. Okay. So anyway, again, how to make your client the biggest fan. All right, that came from my mom's house too. So anyway, Ben, I will gladly give this to you when I'm done using it as a prop.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Anyway, all right. So I made a couple of notes that I have to look at, but so the first thing is, when I started real estate, I did something a little different. Instead of starting and working on rentals, everyone said rentals, rentals, rentals. That's what you do. You work with the renter becomes a home buyer in about a year to 3 years. So instead of starting on rentals, what I did was I went to the MLS and I went back 3 years and I said, let's see if these renters bought. So I checked, and sure enough, I would call or visit them, and they didn't buy. And out of say 20 renters that I would go visit, 19 did not like their realtor. And I asked nicely, what was the disconnect with your realtor? And they said, well, when we first moved in the house needed repairs, and they didn't call us, they didn't check with the property manager, so we wrote them off. And people are like microwavable. You're indispensable. They will get rid of you if they don't like you. And so I was finding that, hey, this is going to be my niche. I'm going to go after, I did in a very nice way, because we're dealing with buyer's agreements and this and that. I went and I wrote a letter to every renter on MLS that leased a property 3 years ago. And out of those letters, I sent out 500, and it ended up with 28 new sales. And they were awesome. I have my first client was Martha Luna, and I just sold Martha's daughter a house in last March. And so that's my little legacy. And so it was wonderful. I cried at the closing because I remember Martha's daughter. She was 9 years old when she looked at the house with me, and I ended up getting her that way. So I took the advice, but in the reverse, they're like, oh, fine, rental. I didn't want to go out and make $750 on a rental. I didn't want to take half of $1,500. So I said, I'm going to sell renters' houses. I remember when Norma Langston used to sell those non-qualifying assumptions. I'm not sure if any of you are, raise your hand if you remember non-qualified assumptions.
I bought one.
Where you assume the person's loan. And Norma was just selling them. And so that stopped in 89. They changed where you couldn't assume them, you have to qualify. And I got my license in 89. So there were some older loans that I did some assumptions, but I really worked on those renters that were in houses for 3 years, converted them into sales, and then those people had trickled down. And I will tell you, do I keep up with all my customers? Yes. I only have 3 customers. I don't know where they are. At 3 that I've sold since 2001. I don't know where they are. I have no idea where they are. Why? It just happened. One worked for Ford Motor Credit. I think she moved abroad. And, but I keep in touch with all of them. So how do I make them my biggest fan? Do a couple of things. I can't remember who told me this. I went to so many seminars through Coldwell Banker, but someone said to have 25 favorite clients, and not 27, not 30, 25. So I have my 25 favorite clients. And how I gauge my 25 favorite clients is if you send me a referral, if someone sent me a referral last year, they're on my list of favorite 25. And right now on my list of 25, I have 17 sent me referrals last year. And some I kept on my list because they didn't send me referrals last year, but they continuously send me referrals. Now, everyone's on my list, on my favorite list, but my list of favorite 25, what do you get to be on Keith's list, who talks about himself in the third person, on the 25 list? What you get is a visit from me every month. If you have a dog, I'm going to spoil the dog. I wasn't allowed to have a dog when I was little because my mom's OCD, and dogs are dirty, they get parvo, and they die. And so my dad and my mom, we weren't allowed to have a dog. So I've been with my partner 27 years, and one of his non-negotiables was no dog. I said, if we're together 10 years, can we get a dog? He said, yes. I think he forgot about that. I think he didn't think we were going to be together 10 years. 10 years and 8 days, I brought that dog home. And I said, this is our dog, Baxter. This is our dog. We're going to love him. He's our family member. And you said we can have a dog after 10 years. He goes, what? And he loved that dog. That dog lived for 19 years. And so anyway, so what I do for my favorite 25 is I visit them once a month. In January, I just did this. I bring them birthday candles in a bag with tissue paper, and I give them, I'll show you my props. I bring them cards for every occasion. So they'll get a New Year's card. I have it right here. Here's my New Year's cards. They'll get a New Year's card. They'll get a Valentine's Day card to give to their friend. They get a St. Patrick's Day card. Every Easter card, I give them a card, everything. You say, where did you get these cards? My mom, for a living, owned a gay greeting card company. That's what she did for a living. She took a market in 1978 and started doing gay greeting cards. And it's fun. And I made a lot of her greeting cards. So I had fun doing that. And so she does not have the company anymore. She sold it. I wanted to run it, but it was just the inventory and stuff. But anyway, so every January I go to see a client and I bring them a bag of 12 cards for every occasion. There's occasions that all these greeting card companies, they celebrate everything, you know, but I go to the dollar store. I said it, oh no, I said it. The dollar store. When my mom calls me, if she's at Dollar General, she'll whisper, I'm at Dollar General. I'm like, why are you whispering? No one's listening to your conversation. My mom used to whisper Target, but now Target is Target's like great with COVID. You could buy anything there, you know? So anyway, so I send that and I put birthday candles. And guess what happens? How many of you have birthday candles in your drawer at home? No one leaves birthday candles. So when you go to buy a cake and you go to buy the birthday candles, where are the birthday candles? They're not in the bakery. They're where? They're in the card aisle. Do you want to walk over the card aisle? No. So I buy birthday candles and 12 cards, and my clients remember me every month. Then in February, if they have children, I bring the kids stickers. Then St. Patrick's Day is big in our community. So everyone likes to drink. I don't trust people that don't have alcohol in their house, sorry. So I bring them, I'm just kidding. No, I'm really not. But I bring little St. Patrick's, I bring Easter and Mother's Day, Father's Day. And then there's not one person that never, one of my clients, they always get a birthday card. This is one I'm sending in to Yosef. It's his birthday in 2 weeks. He loves the Big Bang Theory. So I got him a card. And you can go to the dollar store to get these cards. They have great cards, 2 for 50 cents. And, people, it's old school, but I've had people, if you look at my Zillow reviews, they're like, Keith always remembers your birthday. And I have one client that he doesn't have a lot of people in his life. And he called me and he said, Keith, it was so sweet to receive your birthday card. It was the only card I received. I was like, oh, and then during my 25 people, I bring them plants during the summer, go to Home Depot or Jackson's and on sale, and they'll plant it. And then when they walk up to that house, they remember me, So I try to spoil my little clients. What I end up, I'll probably get in trouble for using the word little, but I love my clients. And so what I also do is a couple other things I do. I just spoil them rotten, but it's not expensive. Every closing, I take $100 and I put it aside for each client. And I use that $100 during the year to send a reach out gift to them. I do that all the time and it works.
Keith, what about
magazine?
What about your cake? What about your cake?
Oh yeah. And I love to bake, and I make cakes for the selling agent.
I got one.
I make a cake for the selling agent. I draw the house for the buyer. I have to be careful with that because the last 2 houses I didn't draw because I just didn't have time. We closed so fast. We closed in 10 days. But I give a cake to the client, I make it homemade. I give it to the listing agent, the buyer's agent, or the listing agent, or the co-op agent. A couple other things I do. On Halloween, I have a dog party at the dog park. There's a costume contest. People love their dogs. People that don't have a dog, I tell them they can come and rent my dog. And I bring the foster dogs and they get to rent the dog. They have to pay a fee of $30 to the animal shelter, and they get to rent the dog. There's a company called, organization called LAP, League of Animal Protection, and they're awesome. I have people bring their cats to the pet party, and we have a costume contest, and we just have a lot of fun. And these people go all out dressing their dogs up, It is funny. If you don't have a house, have it at the dog park. If you do have a house, don't have it at the house. There's so much liability if someone bites dog, if the dog bites someone and this and that, you have it at the dog park. There's no liability. And you write on your flyer, if your dog is not good with other dogs or people, please leave him at home. You can, him or her at home. You may attend. And I've had people not bring their dogs because their dogs aren't social, you know. And what I do is I get it, have a Shasta trailer, and I borrow it from my niece who owns a food truck company. And I do a dog food truck, and I do Alpo cake, and I do treats, and they leave with a gift bag. And I end up getting at least 4 or 5 listings from that. I have a doggy fashion show, and it's just so much fun. And I have straight men dressing their dogs in tutus and all this stuff, and they just have so much fun. They're like, I love my dog. I love my dog better than my wife. So sorry, I've had a couple say that. And you know, so I do that. Then I have another thing I do is if you send me 3 referrals a year, 3, what I end up doing is I take you and your partner, or you and a guest, and we go to oh, what's that nice hotel I take everyone to? We just went and we did it, and I had 3 couples go with us. Ritz-Carlton. We go to the Ritz-Carlton, and I give them a night at the Ritz-Carlton. And it's always in January, because after the holidays, you don't want to be with your children. You could be with them on spring break. I don't do it around Valentine's Day because that's their day. But January, around the 13th or the 20th, this year there was 3 people. They came with me, and I mean, I paid $800 each for their hotel. But do you think they're going to send me another referral? They sent me 3. So I had 1 that sent me 2, and they're like, why can't I go to the Ritz-Carlton? Sorry, I needed 3. It's expensive. And I did my pictures on Facebook, and we're all dressed nice, and everyone loved that. I have a Cinco de Mayo customer appreciation party at my house. And during COVID, it was hard because I have a mother that was going through cancer, and she didn't want to go, but I have neighbors and this and that. So, you know, I had to ask for vaccinations, and I upset a few people. So I am telling you this from my heart. Be careful with that. You know, I live in Lake Forest, of an older neighborhood. The average age in our neighborhood is in the newsletter, 78 years old. And so it was this, you know, May that just passed. And, you know, but what was so beautiful is there were people that wore a mask and people that didn't wear a mask, you know, but everyone had their, you know, I just said, please be vaccinated. There were some people that didn't show up. They didn't get mad at me. They just, you know, it was a topic, but you know, just had to be careful with that. And I brought it up because I'm real, and that's just what happened. I want this year, I'm going to do holiday, Christmas in July. If you don't celebrate Christmas, we're not asking you to during the holiday. We're just asking you to come July and celebrate it. We're going to do gift bags and Santa and all that stuff. And I'm going to end up probably having that at the dog park, Christmas in July. And, you know, I went and bought all this stuff 90% off at Michael's. And my partner's like, how many Christmas bags do we need? I said, well, we're going to have Christmas in July. And so we'll do that. But, you know, you have to think outside the box. So I know we're getting close to time, so I'll leave you with this. There's an agent, I adore him, Jay Robbins. He's awesome. He's out of Richardson. And I just love the way he does his business. He does Kaboom Town. He calls every expired. He calls the people that rent. He calls his farm area. He's very poised. He's very nice. And both of us agreed that we were going to go and shadow each other because we're so different. So we had our offices next to each other, and I'm walking in with the cake and talking about my clients and going to a quinceañera and doing this and this and that. And he's like, well, that sounds time consuming, Keith. I'm like, it is, but you know, I'm social. And if you get 4 pieces of business out of doing that. And one thing that I do is everyone knows a realtor, but I want to be the realtor you need to know. So I have realtors that are like, it's rude to go to a Christmas party and say you're a realtor. I'm like, no, that's what I do for a living. Now, if it's rude to go to Ben's house and hand out my card, but if I'm going to my Pampered Chef lady and she's having a big party, I'm going to hand my card out and I'm going to tell her ahead of time, and she's fine with that. I'm going to buy a whole lot of Pampered Chef, but I'm going to be the realtor. The other thing I do is I go to a grocery store. I'm not going to tell you which one. And they have sip and stay and sip and shop, and you get to drink and shop. And, you know, it's in the neighborhood. And I have met so many people at those events, and it's awesome. So I met with Jay and I said, Jay, I'm going to plan the day and you're going to go with me. He says, okay. So I visited 3 clients. And when I got there, the first thing, the little kids were like, Mr. Keith is here. And one little boy was like, Mr. Keith, I have fur pillows. You want to see them? I'm like, okay, yeah, Mr. Keith have fur pillows too. Come on, let's see them. And his room's all decorated and all this stuff and nice. And I'm like, that looks good. And so Jay's like, God, all these little kids love you. And so we go to the houses and they were happy. And one little kid, I was late on his birthday card and he goes, I thought you died, Mr. Keith. I didn't get my birthday card. So anyway, I'm like, no, live and kicking. So anyway, then I went with Jay, we went to lunch, then I went to a listing appointment, and then we were done. Then the next day I went with Jay to his office. He did the Kaboom Town earpiece in, predictive dialer. He's a machine. And he had reports and said, this is how many calls I did. This is the ratio of close I did. I did 53 calls. I got 17 leads. I did this. It was making my head spin. I think it was wonderful. And we did all that. He ate lunch, but he ate lunch at his desk, and everything was saving time. So at the end of the meeting, what we learned about each other is my old school thing. He says, I'm going to start calling my old customers. And I said, that's awesome. I said, what else did you learn from me? He says, I learned that you're good to your clients. That's awesome. At first I was like, well, and he says, I really don't stay in touch with a lot of my old customers. I'm going to start doing that. And his business improved by 23%. He knows his percentages. And he said his business went up 23%. And then I said, Jay, please candidly give me an email of what you think I need to do differently. And he goes, that's going to be a long email, Keith. I said, okay. So it was my time. So a couple of things that I learned is number one, meeting your customers and all that is time consuming, but it's farming. When I go and meet with the clients, I'm meeting them because I like them, but I'm going to follow up and ask them for a referral. And the other thing he told me is stop going to the grocery store, order your groceries online. And I did that, and my business went down 8% because that's where I was getting my clients, was the grocery store. And they're drinking and you don't have them sign the listing agreement, but I was getting a lot of people that had their houses listed. And I was like, can't talk to you now, your house is listed. But
Keith, we're about to finish
but
because I've
that's
got the
it.
free version of Zoom. So I tell you guys, I think I deliver meat each and every week, and you've heard from Keith.